Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm excited to talk about something that might sound a bit technical at first, but trust me, once you get it, it's actually pretty cool. Today, we're diving into DNS in Kubernetes clusters. Now, I know what you're thinking. DNS, isn't that just boring networking stuff? Well, here's the thing. DNS in Kubernetes is like the secret sauce that makes everything work together smoothly. It's the reason your pods can find each other, talk to services, and basically not get lost in the maze of your cluster. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's figure this out together. What is DNS anyway? All right, let's start with the basics. What exactly is DNS? Think of DNS like a phone book. You know, those thick yellow books our parents used to have. Instead of looking up Joe's Pizza to get a phone number, DNS looks up a website name like google.com and gives you back an IP address like 172.217.164.206. Because let's be honest, which one would you rather type into your browser? Google.com or 172.217.164.206. Yeah, exactly. Names are just easier for us humans to remember. The same thing happens in your Kubernetes cluster. Your pods and services all have IP addresses, but remembering a bunch of random numbers is, well, it's not fun. So DNS comes to the rescue and gives everything nice, human-readable names. Enter CoreDNS, Kubernetes DNS superhero. Now, in the Kubernetes world, we have this thing called CoreDNS. Think of CoreDNS as the phone operator of your cluster. Remember those old movies where someone would say, "Operator, connect me to..." That's basically what CoreDNS does, but for your Kubernetes resources. CoreDNS runs as a pod, usually a few pods for redundancy, in your cluster's system namespace. It's constantly keeping track of all your services, pods, and their IP addresses. When something needs to find something else, CoreDNS is there to help make the connection. The cool thing is, you probably don't even realize it's working most of the time. It just works. Kind of like a good air conditioning system. You only notice it when it's not working. Here's where things get really interesting. Let's say you have a web application that needs to talk to a database. In the old days, you might have hard-coded an IP address somewhere. But what happens when that database pod gets restarted and gets a new IP? Yep, everything breaks. But with DNS in Kubernetes, your web app can just say, "Hey, I need to talk to the database service," and DNS figures out the rest. It doesn't matter if the database pod restarts, moves to a different node, or if you scale it up to multiple pods. The DNS name stays the same, and CoreDNS handles all the behind-the-scenes magic. It's like having a really good assistant who always knows where everyone is, even when people move offices. Pretty neat, right? Now, let's talk about how Kubernetes actually names things. There's a specific pattern, and once you understand it, everything makes more sense. The full DNS name for a service looks like this: service-name.dns.svc.cluster.local. Let me break this down with an example. Say you have a service called my-API in the production namespace. The full DNS name would be my-api.production.svc.cluster.local. But here's the cool part. You don't always need the full name. If you're calling from within the same namespace, you can just use my-API. If you're calling from a different namespace, you might use my-api.production-names. Kubernetes is pretty smart about figuring out what you mean. It's like addressing a letter. If you're sending mail within your city, you might just write the street address. But if you're sending it to another state, you need the full address with city, state, and zip code. Okay, here's where things get a bit more interesting. Sometimes you don't want to go through a service's load balancing. Maybe you're running a database cluster and you need to talk to a specific database instance, not just any random one. This is where headless services come in. You create a service, but set cluster IP:none. When you do this, DNS doesn't give you back the service's IP address. Instead, it gives you back the IP addresses of all the individual pods behind that service. Think of it like calling a restaurant. Normally, you call the main number and they connect you to whoever's available. But with a headless service, it's like getting the direct phone numbers of all the staff members. You can choose exactly who you want to talk to. This is super useful for things like stateful sets, where each pod has its own identity and role. Alright, so how do you actually test if DNS is working in your cluster? Great question. The easiest way is to spin up a temporary pod and use tools like nslookup or dig. You can run something like bash kubectl run test pod --image equals busybox -it--rm-sh. Then inside that pod, you can run bash nslookup my service HPUSS. If DNS is working, you should get back an IP address. It's like calling directory assistants to make sure they can find the number you're looking for. You can also use dig if you want more detailed information. It's like the difference between asking, "What's Joe's number?" versus, "Tell me everything you know about Joe's phone situation." Now, most of the time, Kubernetes handles all the DNS stuff automatically, but sometimes you might need to add custom DNS entries. Maybe you need to resolve an external service, or you have some special routing requirements. You can configure custom DNS entries through CoreDNS configuration. But honestly, this is more of an advanced topic. For most use cases, the automatic DNS that Kubernetes provides is more than enough. It's like having a GPS that knows all the roads automatically. But sometimes you might need to add a shortcut that only locals know about. Okay, let's talk about what happens when DNS doesn't work. Because let's face it, stuff breaks sometimes. The first thing to check is whether CoreDNS pods are running. You can check this with bash kubectl get pods -n kubesystem grep CoreDNS. If CoreDNS is down, well, that's your problem right there. It's like trying to make a phone call when the phone lines are down. Another common issue is network policies blocking DNS traffic. DNS uses port 53, so make sure your network policies aren't being too restrictive. Sometimes pods can't resolve DNS because they're not configured with the right DNS server. You can check a pod's DNS configuration by looking at /etc resolve.conf inside the pod. And here's a pro tip. If you're seeing intermittent DNS issues, it might be a performance problem. CoreDNS might be overwhelmed, especially in large clusters. You might need to scale it up or tune its configuration. Before we wrap up, let me share a few quick tips. First, try to use service names instead of IP addresses whenever possible. It makes your applications much more resilient to changes. Second, be mindful of what namespace you're in. DNS resolution works differently depending on whether you're calling services in the same namespace or different ones. Third, if you're building applications that need to discover other services, consider using environment variables that Kubernetes automatically creates, or use service discovery libraries that understand Kubernetes DNS. And finally, monitor your DNS performance. In large clusters, DNS can become a bottleneck if you're not careful. Alright, let's wrap this up. DNS in Kubernetes might seem complicated at first, but it's really just a way to make life easier. Instead of dealing with IP addresses that change all the time, you get nice, stable names that just work. CoreDNS handles all the heavy lifting, automatically creating DNS records for your services and pods. The naming convention is logical once you understand it, and there are tools to test and troubleshoot when things go wrong. The key takeaway? DNS is what makes service discovery possible in Kubernetes. It's the glue that holds your microservices together and lets them find each other reliably. I hope this helped demystify DNS in Kubernetes for you. If you found this useful, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments if there are other Kubernetes topics you'd like me to cover. And remember, every expert was once a beginner. Keep experimenting, keep learning, and don't be afraid to break things in your test clusters. That's how you really learn. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.